Well, the biggest news as we enter turn 6 is, and perhaps the only news of any importance, is that the Portuguese are absolutely out of money. They got the costly European war event, 50 ducats drained away. They were already in enough trouble. They were hitting, I think, 27, somewhere in there, after their taxes. Actually, I cut this one. They would have gotten 20. They would have at 22. You know, they're out for the turn. They're going to have some serious problems because they can't even maintain the colonists that they have, much less the armies that are on the board. Certainly not their fleets. They have a couple of explorers that they could rent. But this turn, England has one. Everybody has one, actually. So nobody's terribly interested in what they have to offer. I think they're going to wither on the vine right here, and they're going to be pretty much ripe for the picking for anyone. I'm not sure I would want to pick something that's withering on the vine, so that metaphor may not be the best. All right, let's do the planning, and, well, I haven't set the initiative yet either. Of course, the Portuguese do have one thing of value. They have the rudder to the Cape. They could sell that conceivably. Who would want it? England has the cash to take advantage of this. But they were planning on a certain landing. No one else really has the money. France, Spain, they'd be pushing their income way down for this. So I think nobody's, not just to own the rudder, to be able to use it. You need to send an explorer. You need the cash to go forward. Spain might be convincible into it. This is their last turn with Magellan. You got to be careful with Spain because they have these conquistadors mixed in, so seeing the color doesn't mean anything. But really anybody could buy it, because it would be of value next turn for a possible run through here. So we'll see how much they could give for it. $20 or so would go a long way towards holding their territory together. If you see their outflow, got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 18, and then the boats. So if they could get 25, they would be in good shape. Really good shape, actually. They were unable to find anybody really willing to pay anywhere near that price. The French, the English, the money's intriguing. Maybe they should, but I made a roll and they said, no, we'll just let you go. Because one of the things the English can look at is, hey, maybe I'm the guy who ends up owning Rio del Plata, if it's open. Maybe I'm the guy who can launch that expedition to take that from you. You've done the work of clearing the natives out. Who knows? The Spaniards, well, they had they're down to 21. They would not have had the cash. They built the galleon fleet, and they're also launching an expedition into the deep south. France, they're very much fixated over here. Portugal was the only one looking at this, and, well, maybe they'll get it anyway, because next turn their prospects, their income will start increasing. Their holdings in the Rio del Plata will start bringing in money. But this turn, it looks like they're going to kind of fall into a collapse. Well, I'm trying to figure out where this money... Oh, this is the money that they produced, the $22 that they produced out of their holdings. I was wondering how Portugal got money. I did the resource segment already. Here's the pile of money Spain's bringing back. 155. That should help inject their economy with some strength. But they do have additional things. They've gained control of the Deep South. The French destroyed the natives, I think, in the East Coast. The Portuguese destroyed the ones in Brazil. For whatever good that's going to do them, we'll see if they can hold on to that situation. And the English brought their money back as well. They still have a producing mine. That's the only remaining producing mine in the Caribbean. That's an interesting situation because the Spanish have a lot of colonists there. They have a certain desire to eliminate this gold mine because that is reducing their income significantly as long as that exists. Could be a clash point. At the end of turn 6, Cabot jumps over to turn 11. He's going to return to. He's going to become a Portuguese explorer for the next 4 turns, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, whatever use that is for them. The Portuguese have been significantly hit by this. They lost their fleet and their army down here in the south. They maintained a small colony and an army here. Iffy decision to do that. I think they probably would be better off having tried to just maintain one strong point instead. But they feel like they got so hammered by this that they're hoping maybe people will leave them alone for a bit. We'll see. It's a questionable thing either way. What Spanish ended up paying 60-something in their maintenance fees, so they're almost down to the French level at this point. You can see the 100-something level. The English still have tons and tons of money, but they have almost no presence. They have a couple of spaces in the Caribbean, and that's it. Well, interesting things starting here in turn 7. Rolled the events up. The kind of exciting ones we got. Spain is hit with graft and corruption. Remember, that doubles the cost of all purchases and all maintenance. Now, purchases may not be that big a deal, but maintenance, we remember Spain was paying like 60-something. They're going to be up to 120 in that case. They only have $140. Of course, they're going to be bringing more money in this turn. Resources are doubled anywhere where gold's not being mined, which for them is only the Caribbean. But it does kind of put a serious question on what they want to build, what they want to do this turn. A hamper on that. There's also kind of this doubled, should I just like delete some of my armies and stuff? And that's a possible thing. You can also do some demobilization, try to cut your costs. What you can't demobilize are your missionaries, even if they're extraneous at that point. You kind of want to keep using them. They're not a big expense, but everything adds up, right? The other one is a natives decimated, which everywhere where there are Europeans, the native level went down by 1. Well, that had one effect only. Panama now has no natives, which is very cool for Portugal. One of their problems there was, of course, they were unable to deal with the natives. They had taken a loss last turn. A very small native group, but it is their territory, and they kind of want to try to hold on to it. We don't know what's going to happen with them. I did look up the rules on these Germans to clarify them a little bit more because I felt uncomfortable with them. They're one-time purchases. The country that buys them gets to keep them for the entire period of their time. And it's not a sealed bid, it's a completely open bid. So I guess we do it in initiative order. The first player can bid 1, and then the next player is going to have to outbid him to get it. Well, I guess we'll start doing the planning. One thing I forgot, France got hit by another one of those European wars. Another $50. That's 100 victory points, right? I mean, that's like 3 times what you get for discovering one of the big New World areas. That's 2/3 of what you get for controlling a territory at the end of the game. That's a lot of effect. It's also a lot in terms of the flexibility they have. They're down to $70. They'll be able to maintain that and operate on it, but it just shows you the kind of randomness and pain that can come in this game. I still haven't gotten to figuring out who's bidding what on this. I look at everyone and they all have explorers at this point. Portugal certainly isn't going to pay. Spain, well, they're interested because they don't have one for next turn. They have 2 this turn, but none for next turn, so spending $1 or $2 might be worth it. Other countries probably aren't terribly intrigued by it. We'll see, but nobody really wants to spend a lot. Keep coming back. One more little thing that I wanted to point out. The English pulled some 12 colonists. Now, that's not possible, but what they got was a 6 colonists, and then supply of colonists changes. It doubled. they want to use that. This is the turn where you want them, and it's time to hit big. There's a nice big opening down here in Brazil. I think that's where they're going. They have to kind of be careful, though, with what they're going to do in Brazil, because they're not really planning on sending troops with them. The reason they're not going to send troops is the Portuguese just cleared Brazil out for them. Landing decisions were made, the English landing in Brazil as advertised. The Spaniards are using their galleon fleet, I hope I never said galley there, over to first pick up the gold here, move over into the Aztec Empire, pick it up there, and then sail back home, and then to continue colonizing the Deep South. Their high expenditures, but they had a decent number of colonists, convinced them to take this kind of middle-of-the-road approach. They should be pulling enough cash in to get themselves, to remain solvent this turn, basically. But it's going to be tight, and they didn't want to start a war with Portugal. The English didn't want to start a war with Portugal because they had so many colonists that they want to launch here. But the French have no such limitation, and they're going into the Rio del Plata. They want to try to conquer that. They see that as a tremendously valuable territory with Cusco not far away. And they are going to continue pushing here and perhaps getting the Great Lakes bonus as well this turn. We're in the midst of the land phase right now. Spaniards cycling their gold down. Brazil being populated up here. Interesting little race going on here with the Spanish charging up. There's a Missouri River expedition. If they make it up to one of these hexes, they've got the source of the Missouri River, the Mississippi River, which is worth, I think, 15 victory points to do a land expedition all the way up, or down, for that matter. But they're also interested in this hex, which has a treasure thing. The French, seeing the Spaniards so close to the treasure they're counting on, ran to go find it. And they see there's a 40 there. They're going to be attacking and then trying to pull the gold out of there. And that could end up in a fight between the French and the Spaniards. But the French have a much larger force. And they may just push their force forward into the Midwest Plateau and try to also dominate that. This is putting them at war, though, with Portugal and with Spain. Because remember, they've landed here, and this is what I wanted to center in on, which was the first time I've seen land combat in this scenario, or in this game that we're playing right now. The French moved into here. They've got 12 strength points against 5. That's going to be just a straight 2-to-1 here, and all we do is roll a die. There are no real modifiers, nothing exciting here. 2, the attacker loses a quarter, the defender loses 3/4 of the soldier detachments present, okay? There's 3 soldier detachments present. Now let's see how that reflects out in losses. Colonists are worth half a soldier detachment each. It's the total number of soldier detachments in the battle. You can't attack except with soldiers. You can have colonists come in with them and they can take additional losses, but I didn't see a point to doing that because the Portuguese have no troops down here, so I'm pretty safe with my colony. So what did we say? There are 3 there. 3 divided by 4 is less than 1, so I lose 1 there. But 3 times 3/4 is 9/4. That's more than 2. So I'd say, sounds like at least 5 are going. I don't know if it was 6. I'm trying to figure that one out in my head. But the French have been successful in destroying the settlement here, and now they can continue on here. It's one of the interesting things in the game that's kind of a gripe for me. I kind of feel like, you know, the Dutch who surrendered in New York City, for example, they became part of the colony that was forming. And likewise, you would also have some colonial growth, maybe. Now, this game stops pretty early, 1600. It may be that colonial growth was very close to 0 in terms of the death rate compared to the birth rate, well, the surviving birth rate. So that may not be so bad. It was something that struck me when I first started playing it. I wanted, you know, what eventually the computer game colonization kind of gave. But I think this is actually more historically accurate in that these early colonies didn't grow into huge cities for the most part. However, I think there were some that did kind of establish fairly well, even by 1600, to where they had a population growth. That may be the resource value, though. Hey, you got to ship more stuff in there, more businesses, etc., get them started to really build up that population. So it may all make sense in a sort of an abstracted, slightly abstracted way. I did mention the French got the rudder too. I don't think I did actually. They picked up the rudder, first pass, bang, got it. All right, well, the Portuguese get to go. I don't know what they're going to do. They're kind of between a rock and a hard place here. These colonists could start like traipsing across to try to get somewhere safe. At least the English don't have troops. Maybe they'll run and hide near them. Big money rolling in. The big French colonies, sitting here and now here too, have combined to make 76 bucks this turn. The Spanish only made 68 off theirs. They have a fairly extensive network too. And only 75 off their treasury. But now we get to pay the maintenance, and remember the Spanish are paying double. Right now they're above 200 though, which is kind of impressive for them. All right, let's pay the bills. Spanish paid over 140 in their total, which means they're still just losing money. 75 plus 68 puts them at 138, 143 actually, right? 70 and 60, 130. Yeah. So they're just barely breaking ahead of the schedule. And, you know, the French paid a decent amount too. They're back down to 50 ducats. The bigger your empire, the more you pay. That big double colonial, the fact that the colonials are finally bringing money, that doesn't mean that holding an empire is economically worthwhile yet. Here's the problem, though. When you play this game, if you just sat on your money, you probably wouldn't win if people are peaceful. But if they were warlike, if there's struggles like what's going on here where somebody's getting knocked about, if people are losing to other than just the system, and that almost always happens, you probably would win. I've been always thinking about kind of, just sandbagging the whole game, not doing anything. I guess we'll load this one up. It's getting long enough. This year it's going to be so damn many videos for this.